Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to chat about presence because presence can be a huge benefit for everybody. And presence, not presents like in Merry Christmas, but presence like I'm here. Okay, and I'm also going to use a lot of new technology today. So there's going to be probably a few hiccups in this episode where it gets a little bit slow. But back to presence. So, like so many of you, I've been practicing meditation for some time, and it was about 7, 8 years ago. And it really surprises me that it was that long ago because time's been moving so fast. But about 7, 8 years ago, I took a hiatus during this really chaotic period in my life. And now, over the last 4 years, I've been working on returning to my meditation practice. And because the only thing in life that's constant is change, something happened with my practice that was different than any other time that I've practiced meditation. So I found this deeper meaning to presence. And you know what? I think about how this happened. And 4 years ago, I came out of this really personal period in my life and walked into this really chaotic external world. So I did a lot of things to help make my world around me more peaceful. So one of the things I started doing was, I started bringing in birds. I started encouraging birds to come into my yard. And so let's flip up to the cameras with the birds. And there we go. There we go. Yep. Success. And so here's the birds. And there's not that many there today. Usually there's like this huge flock of birds there. But today is like one of the first days that it stopped raining in over 2 months. So I think they're kind of doing the same thing that my husband and I did when this summer when we finally thought the pandemic was over and we could all go out and do things. We took off and we started doing things, and I think that's what the birds are doing today. They're like, man, that rain, it's finally gone, thank goodness. But oh my goodness, all this rain has been a huge flooding risk. And my husband and I were just talking about that when a friend of mine posted this video from the Washington coastline. That's a road. These guys, they're kayaking on a road and it's all flooded. So, and that's not the worst of it. Here we have, this is just going to be, this next one is just up north of me a little ways. So this came from this morning. So you can see huge flooding. And what they're hoping is because, we have this one day of no rain, they're hoping that some of these flood waters are going to recede because it literally washed out part of this freeway. And you can see there's a lot of homes that are suffering this flood risk right now. So that's kind of what I mean when I'm saying, oh, man, things are getting so chaotic and nothing's giving up. There's not a break. So I have my birds. Let's go back to the bird camera because that's happiness. And there you see it. That one in front, that is a house finch. And behind her is a junco. And next to that, next to the black-capped ones, is a golden finch. And they get dusty gray in the winter. So in the summer, that little guy is going to be all bright golden yellow. And he just took off. Okay, so I started bringing birds into my life. I also have bee gardens. And if you watch some of the other episodes, you'll see my bee gardens. So, as the world continued on its trek of pure chaos, I was initially really thankful that I had had that previous experience of my personally messy journey because I thought that experience would make me better at coping with stress. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that I'm probably a little bit too optimistic, but there's a book, The Upside of Stress, and it's written by this Kelly McGonigal, and I think that's how she pronounces her name. I'm not really sure, but she is a lecturer at Stanford University, and she has this quote on stress that pretty much sums up what the thought is on stress today. So here it is. Once you appreciate that going through stress makes you better at it, it can be easier to face each new challenge. Okay. Okay. And so, I bought into that, and I pretty much really thought that I had this one in the bag. But over the last few years, the stress, it's just kept on growing, and there hasn't been a break. And then the pandemic struck, and then the store shelves were empty, and then we couldn't get toilet paper. And that's the least of our problems right now. Shipping's backed up. Inflation has hit. Prices have been exploding upwards. Crime's on the rise. Job security is becoming a concern. And this one's been really bothering me is so many people are dying. And I've been finding I've had to say goodbye to so many people. So just 3 days ago, one of my friends passed. There's another one who's now in the hospital and in hospice. And that's not COVID. That's been about cancer, our other really annoying disease. So, and so here all this is happening. And then what I find is people are constantly arguing. And some people have been going out of their way to be really pretty crappy and selfish. So here we have it. We have the second, third, fourth, fifth wave of the pandemic. And suddenly the thought that's popping up is, this thing's never going to go away. And now we have flooding. And I can tell you, I just wanted everybody to be quiet. So I started doubling down on meditation, and I was getting better at it, and I was getting my focus back. And, I'd been practicing all those meditation exercises that I shared with you on my YouTube channel, because they all worked. When your mind is like in crazy zone, anxiety ridden, stressed, and it won't be quiet, those exercises really worked. And then I found something unusual. I was able to get present in a way that I hadn't before. So years ago, when I was working with mindfulness and getting present, what would happen is that the whole world would suddenly get really bright. And what it was is that without focusing on my inner thoughts, about what's happening, I would focus on the sounds and the sensation of the world around me, the buzzing of the insects, the feel of the grass, the air. And all my senses woke up, and I was aware of the world around me, and I was very much in the world. But you know what? That didn't happen this time. And sure, okay, I became hyper aware of the world around me, yet something changed. I found this place of inner clarity within me. And if I could just turn off my thoughts, even my thoughts of the world around me, there was this place of perfect stillness inside of me that I had never ventured to before. So it was this place of perfect peace and tranquility. And I kind of tried to think about what that looked like to me. And this is kind of what it represented to me when I thought about it. And I could just sit there. And it definitely was an effort to pull my mind to this place, because my mind wanted to focus on something. And most of the time, my mind would race off to something that was happening in my life that was creating all these emotions. And when my mind did this, I would really try to get back to this place of peace. And I couldn't force myself back into the space of tranquility. You know what? I had to find my way back. And it was like a sailor tacking back and forth against the wind. And then I would find that place of perfect peace again. And I would sit there and I'd feel that space and everything was okay. And it was when I was resting in this space that I felt it. That concept in Taoism of eliminating desire. So each time I would slip out of this place of perfect peace and tranquility, and I would find my thoughts tripping over some sense of injustice. And it would raise my feelings of frustration and anger. And then what I would do is I would tack back and forth. Whoops, not in the storm. I would tack back and forth against the wind until I could suddenly pop through to that space of peace and tranquility. Liking that. So these emotions, it was bizarre, but they were such opposites. So one minute I'd be all tied up in the world. And then the next I was sitting in this space of perfect peace and I was in the present. I was sitting right here. And now in flipping between these two was like doing exercises. First, I would create this world in my mind. And then I would be in reality. And then I would create this world in my mind. And then I would be in reality. And flipping between these two, it was like I was doing exercises, creating a world and sitting in reality. And every thought I had shaped my internal reality. And it was when I was doing that it suddenly just became so clear. So presence was the ability to differentiate the moment from the world you create. So presence was the ability to differentiate the world from the moment you create. So you're creating a world and all of a sudden you're present. Creating a world, present. And if you take yourself out of the equation, you see reality, perfect peace and tranquility. And the only reason why I found this was because I was practicing going into nothingness. Now, months ago, I had accidentally slipped into this place of peace, and surprise, I found that I really liked it. And it was a haven to escape the noise going on around me. So each time I meditated, you know what? I would look for this space because I wanted to spend more and more time here because let's be real, the world right now is messy. And this space felt like this magical space that you read about in fairy tales. You know, it was that magical tree in the forest that was sprinkled in beautiful sunlight and filled with nature. And I thought I would like to stay here. I could easily get lost and stay here if I could just keep my mind relaxed enough to stay. Kind of felt like an Alice in Wonderland story a little bit. And then I did. I was able to stay long enough to understand presence finally. So it was that tacking back and forth between my thoughts and presence. So tacking back and forth between my thoughts and presence. So it was doing that I suddenly saw that the only reason that I felt the emotions I did was because I was placing meaning on things in life. And I know that sounds really, really hard, but the only reason why, I was feeling so pent up, frustrated, was because I was placing meaning on what people were doing. And in reality, it had no meaning. So then I realized I had a new stress coping skill. So I could still be in this world. I just didn't have to attach meaning to a situation. And I know I'm going to have to keep on practicing this, but it made me think because there's been some practitioners who said you can't get to emptiness because your minds are so noisy, and they are. And yet in Taoism, emptiness is the first step. And the first step seems to be, can you relax your mind enough that your thoughts are no longer attached to the world around you? So they're not even attached to the sounds and the sights and the feelings around you. So, I guess the one thing I have to say when I was thinking about this is that you can only dream as big as your experiences. So if you're out there and you're going to put limits on yourself, then let it be you who is creating those limits. There's a lot of people who are going to tell you what you can and can't do. Don't let other people define you. And the second thing is find your own spaces. Super stressful out there. The birds are part of my space. The bees are part of my space. And the last thing is to keep up with your spirituality practices, because inside your spirituality can be found your greatest strength. Okay, so until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.